Pacific. It's another beautiful day and another weird day in Joe Biden's universe. I just had our sports director, Rob Jones, in here, and he told me that the junior college basketball player of the year, women's basketball player of the year, let me make that clear, is a 6'8" transgender athlete.
The thing that bothers me is how do women allow that to happen? Because they have fought so hard. That's what the whole Title IX thing was all about. And I got to tell you, I was just reading some material here on voter ID across the country, and I'm doing some background work for somebody, and it came to me that it said in there that there were, I don't know, tens of thousands of people who might possibly be disenfranchised because they identify a gender other than what they were biologically born, and so that their voter ID may not allow them to vote because they are different than what their ID says they are.
Well, so, I'm not going that way personally.
I'm really struggling with all of this. I really am. Is it because I'm old? Is it because I'm white? Is it because I'm male? Is it because I'm educated? Or is it all of the above?
Well,
I really am struggling with this.
Well, first of all, Rob Jones and I talked for quite some time. Rob's our sports director, and it is without a shadow of a doubt, having biological males participate in women's sports will destroy all the good that Title IX accomplished for young women over the years. Fort Dodge has possibly, and I would say arguably the best young women's or girls softball team in the state. If you start letting biological males participate, it'll destroy the sport. Yeah, and we talked at length about how Title IX changed the way that female athletes are conditioned and trained to allow them to get to a point today, Sam, where I'll tell you, it's not 6-girl basketball anymore. Nope. There's no such thing as running or throwing like a girl. These are athletes. They're very good athletes. Both our girls here in town, both at St. Edmunds and Fort Dodge Senior High, are terrific athletes. They take a backseat to nobody. Their sport, the way they play the game is very entertaining, and it's gaining in the WNBA, by the way, Women's Basketball Association, Women's National Basketball Association. They are improving yearly. They really are, and I've started to watch them, which I would have never considered doing, not just a short time ago. But I have to give credit where credit is due. These women are no nonsense, highly competitive, highly trained athletes, and I take my hat off to them. However, I have seen wrestling matches, college wrestling matches, high school wrestling matches, where a woman is paired against a biological male, and guess what happened? The biological male, who is a male in makeup, is beating the hell out of some poor girl, and that'll kill the sport of female wrestling. And if you kill a sport, and I'm a wrestling fan from way back, as everybody listening knows, if you kill that sport, that's the end of wrestling. All wrestling.
Well, it's all wrestling. That's the other part of it. It's not just the women's sport. It ruins it for everything, because if there is no gender difference, or people identify, and we're heading to an androgynous society where there is no difference, then women's sport will be like it was when I was a kid. You realize we put our first female track team out when I was a senior in high school. That was in 1967.
Mm-hmm.
We did not have women's sports at all. We did not have the high school sports that, like women's golf or women's tennis or track and field or basketball or any of those things. We didn't have that. And so you just When girls went to high school, they were cheerleaders or nothing, and that was
right.
it. I mean, and that was the end of their sports activities. And we used to play 3-on-3 girls basketball, and that is a great game in and of itself. But we had girls that were in when I was growing up, that could easily have transitioned to the 5-on-5 game and been fantastic. And but we just didn't have that. And look how far we've come in those 50 years, because it's been 50 some years since I graduated from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And it will it will destroy women's sports if we do not have the courage to stand up and say, look, born a female, play as a female. Born a male, play as a male. Well, that's the way it has to be.
You touched on something a little earlier. We're probably not the ones to lead this conversation because we're old white guys. Never mind the fact that we're right and we're sticking up for women, actually. This has to be led by the mothers and grandmothers out there who may have been feminists, may still be feminists of the 70s variety. You women, girls, however, you have to stand up for your daughters. You have to protect them from this terrible thing that I think that is happening to women's sports. It's terribly.
How do you go to school in a PE class and let a 14, 15, 16-year-old boy who is hormonal, outrageous hormonal activity, go in there and identifies himself as a female to go into a female locker room? How do you, as a mother or a grandmother, allow that to happen? How do you do that?
How do you do that is right. How do you allow? What the other side wants is access to the locker rooms. These people who've had surgery and hormonal treatment, but come on, they're still men, they're still males, young men. They want to share the showers with the girls. And if we say anything, we're bigots. Well, no, we're not bigots. We're cowards for not speaking up. And ladies, I'm going to put this right on you. If you can't speak up for your daughters and granddaughters, you're a coward. Period.
Yeah.
And you are going to make your
happen because it will destroy. It will one of the greatest challenges that we have with in my view as a male, of course, white male, educated, old, all of the bad things. I'm the devil incarnate, so I'll just put that out there and we'll just declare that position right there. I'm the devil incarnate. I will tell you, when I was a college professor, I had a number of young ladies that were advisees of mine that would come in. And one of the great discussions that I would have with a lot of these young women, outstanding young women, athletes, just incredible. But do you realize that even those that had that were great athletes, great students, all of these things, still were suffering under this notion that they have to have the perfect body, or they have to have pure white teeth, or they have to have all of these other things, or that they identify themselves as less than whole if their boyfriend is not approving of them. And and I would tell them, there's not a single one of you that comes into my office that needs a man for your self-esteem. Your self-worth is identified by you, not by someone else. And it is, to me, it is hard enough being a young person today. It is particularly hard being a young woman today. It is astounding to me that mothers and grandmothers are letting this happen to their daughters. I just can't believe it.
It's shocking to me. It really is. Now, when you and I were young men, if you ask young girls when we were in high school what they wanted to be, they'd say, they wanted to get married, they wanted to have kids. That was the end of story. It's not like that now. It's not.
No.
Are you? I heard a click there, Sam. Are you there? Yeah, you are.
Oh yes, I'm still there. Yeah.
Anyway, and I remember some very bright young girls in my class who became two things: nurses or teachers. Now, there's nothing. Those are very honorable professions. People entering those positions, I take my hat off to you. I really do. I mean, but there are,
Right.
but women are everywhere now. They do whatever they are capable of doing, and that's the way it should be, by all means. To have a man come along dressed as a woman and slap you across the face, essentially, in the sports field is disgraceful.
It is, and I can't believe administrators. I guess that they have to bend to the wokeness of this because otherwise they're castigated as being bigots, or they're. But I'm sorry. I just don't think if I were a college president and I were confronted with this, maybe it's not worth being a college president if I have to put up with this from the board. Where's the courage of the board, of the boards of directors?
They're cowards.
Where's the courage of the presidents? Where's the courage of the high school principals? Where's the courage of these school board members? Where's the courage? I don't see the courage there. And to me, this whole notion of allowing men to compete as women is to me, it is totally destructive of everything that is good about women's sports and everything that is good, frankly, about this country. Because you have to be able to establish in those sports, and those are role models for other women as they come along. No 6'8" guy who can dunk a basketball playing women's basketball is a role model to any woman.
Yeah,
not at all.
Sam, I'm worried about you a little bit. You keep bringing up this fact that some will say we're bigots. We're not. We're telling the truth. I will proudly tell the truth. And I'm not afraid to point a finger at the people who are saying this sort of thing is somehow correct. You're liars and cowards for daring to suggest such a thing. Those in business who lend their business name and contribute to the causes that support this sort of thing are also cowards and liars. They should be ashamed of themselves. By the way, we're going to talk about this in the next segment, because corporate America, the kings and queens of capitalism, the princes of the free market system, are woke. I mean, they all support these bizarre causes, and they think, crazily enough, that once they get to an area where, we're all woke, that somehow that group of people, that culture is going to support capitalism. It won't. Really, if you look at them, they're socialists. They're socialists.
Well, I know.
And they want to dismantle capitalism as we know it.
Well, they are more comfortable in the socialist environment than they are in the capitalist environment. And because socialism allows them to have that concentration of industry that we have talked about before, which then puts their thumb on all of the little businesses out there, and only the big ones survive, and only the big ones are left. And that's what's really going on in this country is right now, as you see this wokeness taking place among a lot of these corporate scions out there that supposedly are leading the charge of capitalism. They're not.
No.
You have to remember, this is about self-interest. This isn't about doing anything magnanimous. This isn't about altruism. This is totally about the protection of their own and the protection of their own wealth. And, it's the old line that says, I've got mine, pull up the ladder. And so that's exactly what they're doing. They're pulling up the ladder on the rest of America.
Well, I had a conversation with your friend and my friend, Congressman Steve King, when he was still a congressman. And I asked him about that. I said, there was a lot of corporate pushback against Steve King. I mean, some of the big ag industries obviously wanted cheap labor, so they wanted a lot of immigration to our state. That's all. That, by the way, that's all. To oppose illegal immigration is not racist. To say it is a lie. What illegal immigration is about is money and cheap labor, period, end of story. Don't tell me anything else. But I asked Steve King about that, and he said, well, and I also asked, Terry Branstad may have still been governor then, and I asked him about Terry Branstad's kind of laissez-faire approach to cultural matters. And he said, well, the Republicans understand, and everyone understands, that the culture is going to change. They're trying to change with it, and this is the way they see the culture going. Now, if they see the culture going that way, that's our fault. And we must rise up against that corporate notion and tell them that's not the way we're going to live. And if you're part of it, then you should pay. That you should be known by, and that's not a threat to do physical harm, by the way, but you should be known by the company that you keep and know that you are supporting an immoral position.
But what you're touching on is something that is incredibly important, because what you're really touching on is the growing chasm between the average American and the ruling elite.
Yes.
And that chasm is expanding. It's not narrowing. This is the difference between the average American and the ruling elite of each political party. It doesn't matter whether it's Democrat or Republican. Because frankly, in Washington, D.C., you can throw a blanket over them. There ain't a dime's bit of difference between them when it comes to the control of the country, because they have the money. The good thing is we have the votes. And so we have to be able to go out there and cast those votes that indicate to them exactly what it is that is going on in this country, because that's our voice. That's our only voice. We have other ways of doing this, and this is certainly through not buying their products or doing those kinds of things. But all you have to do is take a look at television, see what kind of advertising you see there day in and day out, and it gives you a clear indication of what corporate America thinks is the direction or the nature of this country. And what they try to do is, I don't know if you've ever heard of the book called Nudge, and it was co-authored by your friend and mine, Cass Sunstein, and who's one of the biggest liberals ever to walk the face of the earth. And but that whole notion is that a secondary or tertiary actions by the part of the government nudges people in a direction. That's exactly what we're seeing happen here. We're being nudged in a direction. We're being indoctrinated. We're being told and overwhelmed by this Joseph Goebbels propaganda machine that we see out there in corporate America, and through the media, and through advertising, and through all of these other things, and on the internet. And look at the clicks that you get. And all of these things are there to nudge you in a particular direction and to make you feel awful if you are not woke. Well, frankly, I woke up this morning and I felt a little bit off. I got up, but the reason I felt a little off is because I'm 71 years old, and I'm a little quirky and cranky and cricky right now, and so but I'm still clear-headed, and I know what right is, and that's the thing. I refuse to move off of the position because I am right. Yeah, I am right. Well, that's right. Not going to apologize for being right.
One of our listeners just messaged me, and his message was, all of these things you're talking about is just a demonstration that Stalinism is still alive and well. And
absolutely.
I don't know if we teach about the evils of Stalinism anymore in school. I think we're more concerned about multicultural studies than we are about teaching the threats that still exist. And look at the moves China is making. China and Putin and Russia are very aggressive because they have a weakling in the White House. Joe Biden is nobody to be concerned about as far as they're concerned. And if you remember, you were actually in the Trump administration for a short time.
Yep.
Vladimir Putin had open contempt for Barack Obama. He considered him feminine. He didn't consider him strong at all. And, I don't know about the feminine part, but, anybody who stands around and watches 400 Syrians get slaughtered after he gave a bright red line remark is a weakling. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry. That's just the truth. Anyway, Sam Clovis, we're going to take a break. Please call back in 7 or 8 minutes, and I'm going to ask you to defend capitalism, okay?
I shall indeed.
All right. Sam Clovis has been our guest. This is AM 1400 KVFT.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
It's 3:33. The news is next.